Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Just as a reminder, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only, whichever the law would prefer. It's always important to do your own research and come up with your own conclusions. It's great to see y'all. And so I'd like to welcome Daniel to the My Journey to Awakening series. I've been following Daniel's. I initially ran across him years ago talking about his near-death experience. And we kind of went back and forth a little bit in his comment section. And, you know, he was doing his own investigations. He's had an NDE. He's had some OBEs, lucid dreams, heavily affected by the Mandela Effect, and kind of gone into synthetic Earth, the synthetic Earth matrix, I guess we can call it, and a lot more on his channel. And you can find his channel also linked in the description. And Daniel, it's awesome to meet you, man. I'm really looking forward to this. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, thank you, and it's awesome to meet you too. And I'm very happy to be here because, like I said, it's been years since I've been wanting to talk to you too. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you, I know again, technical problems all the time here, so I don't know how much time we have, but if it comes down to it where maybe we just do another stream in a week or so, or whenever you have some time, maybe we'll just do that. But
Sure.
But I'd really like to kind of roll things back. Like, part of this series is going over, like, from your early childhood memories into, current. So because I really think it's an important part to have that information, especially with experiencers. And an interesting thing, and I don't want to jump the gun too much, but I was re-reviewing your NDE. I think it was an interview with Trisha from maybe 2019, 2018, somewhere around there. And you were talking about... I'm sorry?
No, go ahead, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting because you talk about the Wheel of Time and how you had an interest in history. And then you were like, oh, well, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was something along the lines is like, oh, well, this was my interest. And so I found it fascinating that you saw that because of how this matrix, in my opinion, a matrix, customizes the experiencer and what they go through. And so when you pointed that out, like, I don't know, like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, it's interesting. So, and I think that was kind of a customized thing. And, again, I don't want to jump the gun on it, but that was something that really stood out in the back of my head because of your admitted interest, and like you're making that connection yourself. So,
Right.
I don't know. I don't really want to go too deep into that just yet, but it's something that really sticks in my mind, and it goes to how rewinding back to our early childhood is so important, and kind of going through belief systems and various other things that we hold dear, and how that can, shape an experiencer experience. So with your early childhood, Daniel, what was it like? Religion in the household? Just tell me a little bit. I just want to give you the floor to share with us.
Oh, sure. Yeah. My childhood was a little bit chaotic and all over the place. My parents split when I was 7, and I grew up in New York City, and my mom moved to Arizona. But before that, even up until age 7, we were very invested in the Baptist church. We had a Baptist church pastor that we deeply admired, despite my parents being tremendous sinners. But that was my first introduction to faith and religion. And you know what? In hindsight, it was actually a pretty decent church with genuinely good people compared to many others I've seen. So, but that's how it started. It started with a Baptist church. But then things got strange because I moved back and forth between my mom and dad in Arizona and New York frequently.
And was it California too? Yeah.
In California later on, yes, when she moved to California, right?
And how
And
old
so
was this happening? I'm sorry. I just was curious of the age. I shouldn't interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good. So that's a tough one because, well, I was in Tucson for 5 years, and in those 5 years with my mom, I was exposed to the Baha'i faith that she was into. She took me to Catholic churches. Like, she took me like all over the place, which was weird. But I think she was soul searching herself, basically.
Sure.
Uh-huh. So during that period, but then I would move back to my dad frequently in middle school and high school, and he became a faithful Jew. He became interested in the Jewish faith and took me to synagogues. So it was like this, it was a total just mix of just a mess. And then when I moved back finally to California and never moved out, my mom became staunchly Orthodox, Russian Orthodox religious, staunchly. And she would actually, so my near-death experience took place in a Greek monastery. I don't know if you remember.
Yep.
So that was my mom who took me there because I was having health problems in the hopes that I would be healed. So she was she wasn't pushing the faith on me, but she really wanted me to be interested in Russian Orthodoxy.
Interesting. So, I mean, wow, you really kind of got a little bit of everything.
I did. And that doesn't include in high school, I had a lot of Muslim friends as well. And then later on, I had a lot of metalhead friends. So it's like the total opposite of Muslim friends. And it was like this complete bombardment of everything you can imagine. And then I had a bunch of, not to be blunt or anything, but I had a bunch of redneck friends in the trailer park too. So I was mixed in with a cultural mix that you couldn't believe, including Hispanic and Latino friends. And it was just, I was exposed to everything. Yeah.
Wow. That's I think that's I think it's a good thing. I mean, the problem is like when it's being pushed on you, like that's like especially in your formative years, I guess that's where the problem is, but you really come from a unique perspective with all that because you got a little taste of everything or a little taste of much, a lot more than most people.
Yeah. There were occasions where it was actually pushed on me. Like, I was a little bit of a troublemaker as a teen, and my mom would send me to I don't know, they were basically like cults. Like, they were like Russian-based like rehab centers for troubled youths, and they would like try to correct you by like forcing you to pray in tongues for hours and doing hard labor all day, and then like forcing you to read the Bible for hours. And so there were occasions where it was pushed on me, actually, religion. And I would question these people. I'd be like, why in the Old Testament did God tell the Jews to slaughter all these people and slaughter all those people? That doesn't seem very nice.
That's
they
not
were
allowed.
not happy with me.
Not allowed.
No, they were not happy. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's funny how that works. That's it's I love hearing it though.
Like kind of, retreats, like summer camps, but they were completely illegitimate, like no professionals. There were just a bunch of dudes gathered together and they're like whipping the Bible on you, basically.
So did you have any interesting experiences that you can recall as a kid? Any interesting visitations, maybe anything related around someone's death in the family or a friend, anything like that you can recall? If you can remember the age, that would be great too, roughly.
Oh, the earliest memories I had of something strange, or I would consider actually, when I went to upstate New York to visit my friend Nathan, we did a live stream together. Upstate New York, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, every summer we went to summer camp in the upstate mountains as well. Awesome. And that place is where I had my first like strange encounters with things. There was some kind of, I was with my cousins and brother, there was some kind of an abandoned village near this camp that we were in, and we would just walk around all day exploring stuff. we went into a house, an abandoned house that had a pentagram on the ground with candles around at one time. And all around this house was like skulls of cows and deer and all kinds of weird, intricate stuff. And we would hear sounds in this place. Like we would hear odd moaning sounds coming out of nowhere. We've had people stalk us. Like we would be standing, like there was a 2-lane highway near the camp. We would have people on dirt bikes riding back and forth, staring at us all day long and like harassing us. And we still to this day don't know what the hell was going on around there, but it felt nefarious. And I was too young to really understand at that point, but I remember it as clear as day. I'll tell you that.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just out of curiosity, was there any water nearby at this location?
Yeah, there's, I mean, that area is so inundated with lakes, ponds, rivers, waterfalls everywhere. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So you just got general bad vibes, I guess, or just knew there was like a hanging presence?
Like it wasn't anything like explicitly paranormal, but you know, still creepy and strange nonetheless. I did have, you know, as a child, sleep paralysis, and I saw shadow beings and things like that, though.
Wow. Sometimes, well, a lot of times for children, that's traumatic. Especially when you can't, you know, with sleep paralysis, it's just, it's rough.
Yeah.
So how did that kind of shape your, like, thinking? Did you see any, is it just shadow beings or anything else kind of happen with those?
It got to a point where there was another house that I lived in that was haunted later on. So there was a lot that happened, but yeah, no, I would get like sleep paralysis. And in New York, I had a big mirror in my room for some reason. My parents put this big ass mirror there, but like 4 or 5 years old, I remember I would wake up paralyzed, screaming, and I would see a black shadow in the mirror.
Was it facing your bed, I assume?
Yes. Yeah.
Ooh,
absolutely.
Not good.
Yeah. And I had like things that you would possibly describe as OBEs at that young, like, but they were very vague and minimal. Like I would go up and drink from a stream and the water would taste heavenly, things like that. Like very small experiences. Yeah. Major paranormal stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you expand on the water part? Like, was that kind of like a theme?
It was. I've seen it multiple times throughout my life. Like I would just run to this little creek and this water. I would just put a handful in my hands, and when I drank it, it's like my entire soul was replenished completely. That's how I can describe it. It felt very deeply fulfilling to drink that water.
Interesting. Yeah. Did you feel like maybe you brought, I mean, I guess you kind of already said, like I guess you don't have, it's like very like little memories, but you just know you did it. Is there anything you felt you took back from that you can look back on?
You know, I really don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. I think other than that, it was just something that was trying to assist me in this life to help me through it.
Interesting.
That's kind of what it felt like. Yeah.
Okay. Did you have any illnesses as a child at all?
Asthma. I had very bad asthma, and I was hospitalized 3 times from it. Very severe asthma attacks. That's other than the usual scrapes and BMX bike stuff, and I was into every sport, so just the usual childhood stuff.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay. Yeah, because
I still do have asthma, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I still do have it. Yeah.
That's rough, man. I'm sorry about that.
It's all good.
So, because like how you're talking about it replenishing you. That's why I was asking, like, oh, maybe did you have any health problems? Maybe it kind of rejuvenated you somehow. I'm just guessing, you know, I mean, because there is this weird connection with water that is like so prevalent, and it doesn't always
Right.
necessarily mean healing, but could mean rebirth too. I mean, it's crazy how often water comes up.
I've seen videos of that myself, where people were reincarnated into water. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
Man, it's wild. So, anyways, like, I guess I want you to be able to kind of share anything else that maybe sticks out about your childhood, and then maybe into your teen years. So anything that's on your mind that you can recall that may be pertinent.
There's a couple of experiences, and one of them was actually chemically induced, let's just put it that way, by something called datura or Jimson weed. I don't know if you heard of it.
Yeah, I have heard of it. Yeah.
It's a very, very toxic, potent psychedelic that my brother gave to me. For some dumb reason, I decided to try it. But that was one of the only times where I had an experience where it was related to a substance. Pretty much every other time I was completely in a normal state of mind. But I did want to share this one, though, because of how absolutely terrifying it was. Sure. I saw nothing, and I was probably like 16, and I was just laying in bed at night. I was already asleep, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I saw a tall black shadow standing there touching my leg, and I felt the hand touch my leg. And I woke up screaming, completely just running around the room, smashing things. People had to pin me down and hold me down. And that was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. And I've had other like really dark, hellish experiences too, but that one was up there.
So,
and I also,
what can you kind of expand on that? Like anything? Like
what could I expand on? Well, just because there was a substance related to this doesn't mean it wasn't real, because I'm 100% certain that shadow being was real. Sure. And it was there to do some kind of harm to me. And it felt like absolute pure darkness. Like it was malevolence on a profound level that's like indescribable. Pure blackness.
Yeah, it's so common with substances too. I mean, so it's like you're not alone. I mean, it's and everyone else will swear up and down that they're real and stuff. I believe they are too. I believe it opens like a gateway through us for these type of nasty entities. And if you can't kind of a few things matter. Like, I guess it depends. Like, if you can't keep your shit together, basically, or like you're just in a dark place mentally before doing something like that. Oh yeah, it can change everything and become horrible really quick. You know, but I think you know that.
Yeah, I did jump ahead a little bit though, because that was when I was 16. When I was 12, there was like probably one of the most profound periods of my life.
I'm still here.
You kind of cut out there.
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah, just realigning something. Sorry.
My mom moved to northern Arizona to a horse ranch, and the owner who lived there had an unusual occupation, I should say, was a urn maker for ashes. Wow. And that house had 6 horses. I mean, it was beautiful. The ranch, trees, everything. And I took care of the horses. I mean, I actually loved the place. But my mom worked at night as a respiratory therapist at the time. And I was 12, 13, around there. And I saw things there that were like really, I couldn't sleep basically. There's some nights I just couldn't sleep at all. Like I would be playing guitar in my room and I would hear footsteps in the hallway coming to my room, and I would actually see the shadow on the wall, for example.
Wow.
I would see like mists appear on windows, and they would sometimes look like almost like faces, like right on windows or mirrors. I would see, I would hear voices in the other room. like two people talking in a dark room where there is nobody, two people having a conversation. I would walk up to it and there would be nobody there. So it was like a classical, like paranormal house, basically. And it wasn't just me. My mom experienced things there too. And we only stayed there 6 months to a year, thankfully, though. But after we left, I didn't have anything like that happen. So
it makes a lot of sense, though, because of the environment and your mom's profession and stuff. I mean, like, you know, you're dealing with the respiratory, you know, people are going, so they're not going to make it. And there's going to be energy signatures left behind. And
don't forget the urn maker too.
And the urn maker, exactly. I mean, so it's talk about like, you know, a combo.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Those who aren't kind of ready to leave yet, you know, or hanging around, or maybe they're just in the lower Earth astral, then that's maybe the last place that they're clinging on to, or at least one of the last places.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Interesting. That's a really interesting story, Daniel. That must have been kind of wild. That must have been wild.
It was. I hated it. During the day. It was my favorite house in the world. At night, I just could not. I wanted to run away. I was terrified. Really.
Yeah, that's wild. Wow. No, I appreciate you sharing that. That's interesting. So you and Mom talk about that at all? Kind of ever go over, like, revisit that later on in life?
A couple of times here and there, but then it was so long ago that this is actually around the time of 9/11, around that time period. So
the day of our Lord.
So
Just joking, everybody.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. Let's see. So okay. So just want to again offer. You know, I don't. How old were you? Do you think roughly you were at that point?
During that house in Arizona.
Yeah.
12 or 13. 12 or 13.
All right.
Yeah.
So did you find, like, after like have you noticed, like, your experiences, did they lessen at any certain point, or like as you got older? I mean, because like you're kind of in this 12, 13 range, you know, sometimes those things kind of die off and then maybe they might pop up later. Has it kind of been pretty consistent through your life?
It hasn't been, actually. Good question. It did die off quite a lot for a few years after. Well, except for the, Jimson weed experience. But after that, for like a couple of years or so, I was actually really questioning my faith, and I was really into Richard Dawkins and was on the brink of becoming an atheist, actually. And no, there was a time where nothing was going on until 19, where I had the main near-death experience. And then after that, I must have had another 40 out-of-body experiences. But still, even during the period where nothing was going on, I still always had weird dreams. I've always had weird dreams my entire life, actually. Really detailed dreams, yeah.
Any like of the same beings, entities, or themes that kind of repeat themselves? Anything like that going on?
That's a good question. Okay, so the theme that repeats is what I perceive to be as an avatar of myself, or me living another life in a parallel reality. So I usually see myself, but I perceive it to be another reality that I'm living in. Okay, so I've even had dreams where I saw myself, and these are clearly like other planets, other worlds, and I saw myself one time actually die in one of these realities, and then that spirit left its body, and then I became its spirit, and then I was a ghost in that reality walking around, and I watched my own funeral. So I had really detailed dreams like that, more than once, actually. But yeah, that's the common theme. But in terms of like beings, Not particularly. There's like familiar faces I see, like faces that I don't see on this planet or know about here. Like there'd be people that pop up where I'd be like, hey, I know you, I remember you, and I would connect with them that way. But I haven't seen that many like aliens actually. There was a few occasions, and the few occasions that I have seen them were absolutely terrifying. I had a really vivid dream one time where I saw reptilian or like green skinned reptilians wearing Nazi uniforms. They had full on Nazi regalia with everything, with Nazi hats, and they were walking around in an underground base. And they had like a bunch of people in beds. They were taking us out, and they would put us in chairs and show us like nuclear war and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And when would you say that was, like, roughly?
That dream, I would say 25. I'm 36 now.
Okay.
24, 25. Yeah.
And were you kind of already kind of looking into aliens? And I mean, I know you're a history buff, so you kind of have that connection too. So I'm like, back then, were you kind of looking into that stuff?
Oh yeah, yeah. Like that would be like 2015. Around that time, I was really into spirit channeling. Actually, I was really into spirit channeling. I would meditate, and I would, try to channel myself and stuff. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting the paths everything could take, and how our dreams can be affected by it. Going back to the life that you may have had. Whether it was here or in another realm, so it was like a physical realm. Did you resemble a human body, or was it something else?
Yeah, I usually resemble a human body, and usually look very similar to this with some subtle differences. There have been a few rare occasions where I was like a woman or like another being, like a couple of occasions where I look like an alien, but most of the time they really feel like real realities, and these are actual parallel lives that I'm observing. Obviously, I can't prove that. There's nothing I can prove in that, but this is just how I feel when I observe these places. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and so like the scenery, how would you describe that? Like Earth-like, or just can't describe it, like just totally different?
There's some places that were heavenly, just absolutely mystical, uplifting, like just indescribable places, some of them. Others were really similar to here. Like I actually, even like this local area where I live, I actually literally have seen parallel versions of my local area, and I would actually see an aerial view of this location where I am in different dimensions. And like I would see versions of this place with skyscrapers, where in actuality where I live there's no skyscrapers at all. So, and then I would see a version where it's just farmland, but it's not that either. I'm in suburbia right here. So it's interesting. And yeah, I would see one of my favorite places I'll never forget is I saw these giant massive skyscrapers that look like they were made out of glass and redwood trees. They were just stunningly beautiful structures, and they had these like massive walkways and platforms on the ground where people would gather. There's like no cars. There's just these beautiful like restaurants. Everything looked like it was made out of wood. It was like, I actually think about that place so much. I wish I was incarnated there right now, honestly. I loved it.
So these are
some places,
dream. I'm sorry, go ahead. There's some places.
No, there's been a few places where I woke up and I'm like, damn, I'm back here. I don't want to be here.
I feel that. I think everybody can relate with that.
Yeah.
It's yeah. And then you wake up, you're like, oh, here we go again. Groundhog Day.
Got to go back to the rat race.
Yeah. So interesting. Yeah, dreams are. So I always love hearing about people's dreams. So and you cover a lot of them on your channel. So
yeah.
Why don't you tell everyone the name of your channel?
Okay, yeah, it's Dreams in the Cosmic Trip.
Yeah.
Really straightforward. I don't really edit much. I just put on the camera and film, and I talk about three main topics. I talk about my dreams, I talk about the Mandela Effect, and I talk about that evil, twisted cartoon called iPad Go 2.
Yes.
Those are my three main subjects. Yeah.
That's that thing, man. When I first ran across that, I was like, what? way too much in that. Way too much.
Yeah.
But
way too much for sure.
Yeah. So, so I think we're kind of leading into your NDE, unless there's something else you could think of. I'm just trying to rack my brain. Like, I don't know a lot. So, I follow you and I watch your videos and, but like you put out a lot, and I would like, is there anything chronological also maybe in your teen years or until, I know your NDE's pretty close. What, your early 20s, right? Was it
19?
19?
I would say 2008. Yeah.
Okay.
I would say it's 2007 or 8. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, no, just regular. There's a lot of crazy stuff that happened. Like there's a lot of family problems that I had, and I have a stepfather who was addicted to fentanyl and just exposed to some pretty nasty stuff. And I was doing stupid things myself, and just really a lot of typical dumb teenage crap, mostly, honestly. I mean, I was working a lot, though. I was going to school. I was going to school, then working at Denny's, and, just mostly a regular life, just with a lot of chaos mixed in between and family fighting. Sounds familiar to a lot of people, probably.
Yeah. Everybody has their moments and their struggles with family and friends and everything.
Yeah.
It's but some are worse than others. It's just I guess you process them. But so kind of leading into your NDE, what was like your view, your spiritual view, your life view? How did you feel about yourself? How did you feel about the world? Like, kind of like, give me like just kind of a brief or extended cut of where you were at leading into that. I know you were having health problems, and that's what kind of led you to the monastery, and then boom.
I was kind of in a dark place at the time, I would say. I was definitely kind of depressed, and it was that time where like, you're 18, 19 now, time to figure out what you want to do with your life, blah blah blah. And I was thinking about that a lot, and I had a girlfriend of 2 years that broke up with me, which I was really emotionally invested in her, so that was right after that, and that really tore me up. So I was pretty damn depressed at that time. And then the heart problems made it worse. And in terms of like spiritual stuff, I was open to it, but I was somewhat indifferent, if that makes sense too.
It makes
I was just like,
sense.
okay, yeah.
Because you said you were kind of like teetering with, atheism too. So and it makes sense. Like I did the same thing. I know a lot of people I talk to have done the same thing when they're kind of like in these religions or a religion, and then they're like, okay. And plus we have the education system to thank for kind of pushing us in a materialistic type of view too. So
that's true. Yeah.
So it's a weird combination that kind of can lead us to that.
Yeah.
And it's interesting too, like, so the breakup with your girlfriend, and then your health, you're starting to have heart problems. Like, so between the breakup and when the heart problems started, like, what was the time period between your girlfriend, the heart problems, and then your eventual NDE? And then just feel free to go right into it.
It seemed like it was right, bam, 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 like all right there, like almost all at once. Yeah. It was like broke up, then heart palpitations, high blood pressure, and then couldn't figure out what that was despite going to a great doctor. And there was a whole story behind the heart problems alone. So I don't know if you want me to get into that.
Yeah, no, please. Yeah, get into as much as you want, man.
I mean, this basically, I just had every kind of test you can imagine done to try to figure out what was causing this rapid heartbeat and the really high blood pressure. And this doctor was giving me one type of pill that would work for a while, for like a couple of weeks, and then it wouldn't do anything, and then it would come back. All the symptoms would come back, and it wasn't just the heart. Like, I had really severe anxiety, and I had really just bad headaches, and it was just an overall terrible like sense of well-being. And so she would put me on another pill that would work for a couple of weeks, and then it reached the point where she's just like, you know what, we have to send you to a heart specialist. You have to go to LA. You have to go and figure out, like, somehow on a deeper level what it is. But before we did that, my mom took me to that monastery, okay, up in Northern California, where I had my experience, and afterwards had zero heart problems to this day, as far as I know.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty weird too. Yeah.
And that was how many years ago? Like 15?
2007, 8. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
More than that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So at the monastery, like, what happens?
What happens is that the symptoms were even worse because there was wildfire smoke all around us, so nobody could breathe on top of that. So we were actually wearing masks and stuff. It was really thick smoke. There was like 700 wildfires all up in that area, and I was feeling really bad, and I wanted to take a day nap, and went into our little, it was basically like a little cubicle that they had us sleeping in. And I laid down on the bed, and that's where it all began. That's where I actually first initially felt my heart stopping and heard my last heartbeat.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so what kind of happened from there?
I was laying on the bed, wide awake, and I could just hear it slow down, slower and slower and slower. And then when it stopped, I exhaled my last breath, which I felt really deeply as well. And then I started to feel this sensation of crawling. So I crawled out of my body. Like it felt like a struggle, like I was trying to climb through dirt. And then when I did, I like pulled out of my chest. And the moment I did that, I ended up on the ceiling. And this was a pretty tall ceiling too. And I'm floating up there with my arms and legs expanded outwards, like on a cross almost. And I'm looking down at this thing. It looked like a plastic doll. It didn't even look like a human body. It was so bizarre. Like it looked like some kind of like plastic or like some kind of mechanical thing. I don't know how to explain it. It just didn't look real to me, and I couldn't figure out that it was even me for a long time.
Yeah, that's
like
really
I was just staring at it. Yeah. And then I noticed odd things after I stopped being only fixated on the body. I noticed I could see all around me. I'm like, I don't need my eyes to see behind my head what the hell's going on. And so I'm like, okay, what else can I do? So I stare out past the wall where the monks and the priests were praying in the church next door. And I saw them. Not only did I see them, I felt all of them. I felt everything that they were doing. I sensed everything they were sensing. And I actually, like, it was like a tentacle effect. Like my consciousness was like branching out and it infused into their consciousness. And I remember feeling really like deep admiration for them because I could tell they really cared about what they were doing. Like they were genuinely like worshiping God and really felt like they were doing something important. So I'm like, wow, these priests are the real deal. They're not hypocrites. They're not fake. So I'm like, cool, great. And so I branched back in and started focusing on the body again. And then like my eyes just like, I was like, whoa, that's me. I figured out that was me down there. And then as soon as that realization came, like I just shot up through the ceiling like a vacuum cleaner.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to get to that next part, but I'm just curious, was any new medication introduced by any chance, like that day or maybe the day before or very soon before that? Do you have any recollection?
At that point, I wasn't taking any because none of them were helping. Yeah,
Okay.
I wasn't taking any of the blood pressure meds because there's no point. Like, and some, they just kind of made it worse too. Like, So yeah, no, there's no medication involved unless that I could think of. Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So when you're being shot up through the ceiling or out of the ceiling, what happens from there?
I float up pretty high into the sky, like to a vantage point where I could see like the entire Pacific Northwest, and I could see that entire region. And I'm looking at all the little wildfires we were just in, and they looked like little candles kind of just flaking in and out all over the place. And it was kind of weird and strange. Like it almost looked like, I don't know how to explain it. Like it looked like it was like almost staged. I don't know. That's a dumb word to use, but it looked like it was staged fires, but they weren't. They were real because we were just down there with them. But after that, I started focusing my consciousness on a city, and I just like San Francisco, I'm pretty sure it was. And so I do the same thing I did with the priest. So I just like tentacleize my consciousness and just beam myself down into the city. And I'm on a busy street, and I'm seeing all these people walking around all over the place. And I'm doing the same thing with the priest. So I'm tentacling out, branching out my mind and infusing my consciousness with everyone walking around. And this time, instead of like having like necessarily admiration like with the priest, I was kind of more disheartened because I was feeling like how miserable so many people were, and how much pain they were in, and like how deeply they were suffering and how unhappy they were. But I also had this like love for them too, like this like I wanted to like nurture them and help them feel better. But it was disheartening to see them being so unhappy, just walking around, going to their jobs or whatever the hell they were doing. And so I got out of there. I fused back and went back into the spirit body or the astral body. And at that point, I went higher into the sky, and I saw the entire world. The entire world. And the entire world looked really strange. It looked completely alive, sentient, and fully self-aware. I don't know what you think about that.
I've heard some others describe that, like the Earth and its inhabitants. Oh, sorry, 1 minute. The Earth and its inhabitants are kind of like a living, pulsing, like vibrational kind of pulsing thing, being, or like and it makes a lot of sense when you have kind of like a bunch of beings in kind of like one confined realm, that maybe it would be reflective of that. And then if you kind of think about how we as humans breathe, in and out, whether that flow would be kind of reflective of what you and others have maybe witnessed, I don't know, but
I like that,
it's interesting, like to think about.
It is, yeah, and it did look like it didn't. It's not necessarily breaths. It's just that's how I perceived it in my mind. Like it was expanding, and it was more like some kind of like contraction or oscillation of some kind, like more like a toroidal kind of aspect to it. And so, and I'm watching it, I was like, wow, this is fascinating. And I see this like substance covering the earth, and it was like crystal. It was like some kind of translucent mirror-like structure that felt organic, but also felt like technology at the same time, that was covering the planet.
Interesting. Was there?
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I've heard something similar here and there, not a ton of times, but I've heard something like that. Was there a color to it at all? Like, I know it was translucent, but was there any color to it?
Yeah, there, like, I could see like kind of like colors of the rainbow, kind of like the Dark Side of the Moon cover of Pink Floyd type of a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, like it was just kind of shimmering and oscillating and undulating, all these weird words I'm using, but that's what it was. And it was strange. Like it kind of felt very ancient too. And didn't necessarily feel like nefarious, but also didn't necessarily feel positive. It was just kind of a neutral thing, I guess. Yeah, and then after that, I went higher.
Okay.
So just keep going? Or?
Yeah. Just curious, like, just kind of backing it up just briefly. Like, when you initially leave your body, and then you start, anywhere between the period of when you left your body and when you skyrocketed out of the top of the monastery or whatever.
Yeah.
Was it in color when you're looking down on Earth, or when you're looking over San Francisco or the wildfires? What did it look like color-wise?
It was hyper vivid. It was color, like really expanded, bright, shimmering colors. Everything looked much more lively. I'm glad you asked that, actually, because a lot of people don't. But yeah, it was very colorful, like the colors that we see, but a lot more vibrant and more.
It's kind of weird because sometimes, but I find like it just varies, like depending on the person. And a lot of times, like with someone who may OD on drugs, or even just have like a drug reaction. Sometimes it could be like a grayscale. It could be like black and whitish kind of. I mean, like or foggy. And then there's others who talk like full vivid color, like you. And then of course there's those, which I'm sure you've heard 1,000 times, where they're saying like, oh, there's not necessarily even in the lower earth astral, but maybe eventually sometime in their experience, they talk about how there's colors that they didn't even know existed that they saw.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, I just was thinking out loud. So yeah, like the next, any thoughts? I mean, on any of that? I don't know. I'm just kind of tossing it out there.
No, I pretty much still can't explain or describe, or wasn't told, or don't remember what that was exactly. And after that, I just shot up even more, and I saw a galaxy which very much looked like what you think of as a depiction of a Milky Way galaxy. It looked really similar.
Okay. So what kind of happened from that point forth?
And I just looked at it for a bit. It was gorgeous, and I shot up to a point where there was just nothing. Like the universe kind of basically collapsed in on itself, and everything was enveloped by this white cloudy mist. And this white cloudy mist just sort of collapsed into zero. Like I reached this point, and I call this place the absolute 0 point, because I feel like all creation that ever was or ever will be sort of puts itself into this singularity, and like the source of everything is the number 0. That's kind of what I felt immediately when I was there. And so I'm in this
specific statement.
Yeah.
Okay. That's really interesting. Yeah. That's big.
Yeah. Well, I immediately knew that this realm of absolute 0 existed forever, and there was no beginning to it. There was no end to it, and it was forever. And it never ever had, like, And after that, I'll get into that creation itself never had a beginning, but I'm getting ahead of myself. But I see these sparkles like shooting off, like, and I'm still in an astral body at this point, and these sparkles are going in like every direction. And then I kind of float up to a point where I see this golden light, right? Or this white golden light. And the golden light dissipates my astral body. And all I know now is my pure consciousness. So I was actually blue, like kind of like this color right here. I was a blue orb. I was just a sphere of consciousness at that point. And it kind of felt like an electron basically moving around. And so this light, it poured onto me like all the love that ever was and ever will be forever. Like in that moment, and in that moment, I knew that no matter how many lives I live or whatever it is that I do, that love will be the same forever. Like it will never change. And that was a really kind of intimate and beautiful moment for me. And so I just was in this realm of no space. Like I was just kind of exploring my surroundings, and I'm trying to go somewhere, but like you can't like go anywhere. There's no depth to anything. It's like as infinitely large as it is infinitely small. And so like you're infinitely expansive and contracting. It's a really strange dynamic, but you feel completely at home. Like at this point, I felt like I was so distant from the earth, and that experience was so small and irrelevant that I didn't want to like even like it was a little like a little speck of dust in comparison to my eternal nature. So I was like, whatever. I didn't care. So any questions by this point? I know that was a lot.
No, that's awesome. Would you say, were you perceiving anything, I guess, in your essence of surroundings, or was it just like infinite space of nothingness?
It was infinite nothing. It was infinite nothingness, but there was color and there was sound. So there was like these kind of shimmering, like almost like beautiful harmonies that they sounded like bells. Like imagine like a billion bells going off at the same time. And there were these like streaks of beautiful colors. But other than that, yeah, it was just this white, infinite void. But contained within that was quadrillions of little orbs of consciousness like me, though. So I was far from alone. And I was interacting with them at that point. And there were different colors, too. So I was blue. I saw every color you can imagine in there.
And if you had to guess, I mean, I'm assuming this is probably like a stupid question to even ask, but I've got a few things in my head that are cooking, and I'd like to kind of run them by you based on your answers. So did you feel that the beings that were present had, like a lot of them had a relation to Earth?
Ooh, I like that question. You know what? I don't think that I felt that.
Okay.
I don't think I felt that at all. I think I felt like they were just free souls. Okay. And we were just having a blast being at home. And whether some of them go to Earth and others don't, I could care less, because this is my family. And I love them and we love each other. And that was it. I can't even tell you how indescribably liberating it was to be there. It was phenomenal.
That's awesome. It sounds great. I've had like experiences where I felt like what I guess you would call it like a 0 point experience, like in a very elevated meditation state. And but I didn't really see anybody else. It was just me, but I was like so very content and not a care in the world, like just like pure peace, like an amazing experience. It's happened quite a bit, but it it takes a while to kind of, I don't know, I guess, wish you could kind of reproduce it a little bit more, but anyways.
Oh, right. I wish, believe me, I wish too. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what would you say, like, the other orbs or beings? Like, it's interesting that you're talking about different colors.
Yeah.
Because it kind of goes back to, I spent a lot of time digging through Michael Newton's work, and he kind of had this color-coded system. Whether it was accurate or not, I don't know. But I believe that he's one of the big ones out there who really did put out data. Like, his interpretation of that data, I have a problem with. But but overall, like, what he puts out, I think he tried to do the best he could under the circumstances, based on his interactions, and he openly admitted many times that he was interacting. Something was helping guide him with his work. Okay, and you know my thoughts about.
I might have read one of his books. I might have read one of his books at some point. He sounds familiar.
Yeah, he past life regression hypnotherapist.
Oh, okay, yeah.
He's got. Check out Journey of Souls, Destiny of Souls. I did a cover.
Oh yeah, Journey of Souls. Yeah, I read that. Yep.
Yeah, it's and he talks about the color coding and how the color of the orb or the being or the essence or the soul, however you want to term it, is a reflection of their kind of evolution in the process of their evolution in the Earth process. So that's kind of what was sticking out in my head. Whether it has any relation, I don't know, and that's why I asked the Earth question. So I was just curious. So I don't know.
Well, the Earth does come back in that experience, though, with that wheel of time, though. So yeah, so that the Earth is still relevant here.
Great.
Because
I'm sorry, Daniel. After you.
No, it's all good. No, it's all good. Keep going, or
I think that was pretty much all I had. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do. Like, I love to be able to ask questions, and I don't want to break your flow, but sometimes it's like I want to get it out.
Do ask anything you want. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but I was just having a playful time, and a blue orb approached me, and it was a being that I knew forever. Is the only way I could describe it. It was something, neither male or female or anything like that, but it was a familiarity that was indescribable. I'm like, oh, you, duh. Like, I've seen this being a billion times, and it approached me, and we had a really loving interaction, and it shows me this wheel. Like, it looked like a film reel. I don't know how else to describe it. It looked like, but it wasn't going only in one direction. So it was in all directions. So it was flowing this way, it was flowing that way, and then it was flowing in directions that are incomprehensible and mathematically impossible to explain on Earth. Like, it was just completely alive almost. And it was flowing and flowing and flowing. I'm like, whoa, this is interesting. So I start looking into it. I'm like, almost like looking into a time glass or like an hourglass. I'm like staring at this thing, and I'm like, this is the Earth. And I'm like, okay. So I stare at it, and I start seeing these like periods of time. Like, I saw the Roman Empire, I saw some medieval kingdoms, chariots and wars and kings and queens, and like all these different events that would take place. And I just remember it like being all simultaneous. Like, there was no understanding of what was the past, but there was. It's hard to explain because, there was a past, present, future, but it was all contained within this wheel. And like, I look at it and I knew that whatever this thing is, it had no beginning. It was forever. Like, this Earth thing was never created. It was always up here, kind of a sense. That's what I felt.
That's it, I think like it's really interesting. Like there's a bunch of different things that are interesting. Like so like first is like this being that you felt you've known, right? And
Yep.
so do you think that they were kind of the catalyst for the wheel?
Yeah,
Did they
that
bring you to
being
the wheel? Did they show you the wheel? Did they
it just
transfer
manifested
you?
before me.
Okay.
It manifested, so it was just there all of a sudden because I'm in this voidless white space, and
Okay.
I didn't really have to go anywhere. It just kind of appeared before me, and I'm just looking at it, and I remember feeling like really these kind of silly sensations in my being, like thinking that this place was like some important place, but it almost felt like a complete joke to me. Like this little planet, like this thing is, people took it seriously. That's what I was feeling. Like all these kings, and they think they have authority over people. Like this was so silly to me while being in that space.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's like so appropriate too because so many NDEers talk about.
Mm.
I mean, I've seen mothers who just had newborns and they have complications and have an NDE and they're like okay with they want
Right.
to stay right like in the light or they want to they don't want to come back.
Yeah.
But then of course in my opinion the Matrix kind of rolls out the guilt trip or the red carpet of sorts to try and get them to empathize with whoever. It doesn't have to even be their child. It could be anybody, anyone, anything, to get them back there. But that's neither here nor there. So the wheel, have you? It's interesting too. Like you say, there's no start point, no end point. That's kind of where I've evolved with a lot of things over the last maybe 4 years, maybe a little longer, but somewhere around there. Like I've been like, and that's where like I have a problem with the creator idea, the God idea.
Oh yeah, me too.
And then
Yeah.
you also hear so many other NDEers talk about how we're creator beings. We're gods,
We are.
right? So if that's
Yeah.
the case and we're going to be questioning time, we're going to be questioning a start and end point, how the heck, like we as humans have this kind of preset belief or disposition because we live in time that there must be a start point for your essence, my essence, and everybody listening's essence, when perhaps that's not even the case. Perhaps
That's a
we
great
just
point.
have always been. We've always will be and always have been. And that leads right to the God question. Like, what is that? Like, I don't, that's why I can't just sign on to it anymore. Like, I've been weaved in and out of all this stuff, and it's difficult, Daniel. It's really difficult for me to just sign on to it.
It's super difficult for me too. I'm right there with you because here's the problem with what, in my opinion, what you just said is that we've been around forever. Yeah, I believe we've been around forever, but the source is constantly creating new souls too. So it's kind of a self-contradiction. So if it's infinitely creating new souls, there has to be new souls, but then the souls that were new have always existed. So it's like, how do you fix that problem?
The other question I've put forth on the channel too is like, think about this, Daniel. Like, okay, so we're all creator beings, and there is there's a source. But if we're all creator beings, is one of the few no-nos in the multiverse that we as creator beings can't create souls or true essence beings ourselves? Is it only source that can do such a task? Like, I don't know.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying?
That just blew my mind. That just blew my mind. Oh my, I don't know.
That's,
You know,
that's
what if
I don't
that
know
is
either.
the
I don't know.
case?
Just put it out there. These are things I think about. It's like there's too many unknowns, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't like
Well, what
the
if that
unknowns.
might be what like the quote unquote fallen angels are, if they are a real thing.
Could be.
They might be
Yeah.
creations from another source.
Sure.
I don't know. Yeah. Huh.
And some may have good intentions, some have bad intentions, and some
Right.
have their
Yeah.
own self-serving needs. Some do good.
Yeah,
You know, I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
I don't know. You know,
Mhm.
I just, you know, so like that's why that's where I'm at with everything. It's it just
Yeah.
everything is like the constant. I don't know. I talk about it all the time. Like I don't know. All I know is something
Nope.
is really wrong, and I'm really suspicious. And there's a lot to lead that this is one big fat deception. Like there's way too much in favor of it versus it not being it. And you know that's just my opinion, of course. But and so that's why like I talk about sovereignty. I talk about just doing your own thing, using your own intention, and that literally, in my opinion, is like the only way to try and leave here just to see what happens. Because I don't know what happens, but I feel
Right.
like all of this stuff that when we leave, and if we just apply ourselves as intention instead of relying on exterior worship, whether it's source, creator, Jesus, Buddha,
Oh,
Muhammad,
absolutely.
whoever.
No. Yeah, I
you know what
agree.
I'm saying? Like it's just like
Yeah.
you know, like go our own way, and not like, and even I talk about like, you know, like whoever people are seeing in NDEs. I just do not believe for a minute that everyone who sees who they see in an NDE, especially deceased family members, are who they claim to be. Could it be sometime? Sure. But is it every time? I just don't believe it. I just don't. Like my gut tells me, just based on how they talk, what they're saying, what they're sharing, that something isn't right. Something is
Right.
off. Maybe not in every case, but in a lot of cases. So
Right.
you know, so like deathbed visions and visitations. Why are there so many that come and like you're whoever you connected with? Could be your pet, your dog, your cat. It could be grandma, grandpa, mom, dad, whoever, best friend,
Yeah.
girlfriend, boyfriend, and they're coming and they're saying, okay, here we're going to come in your dreams. You're going to give you some premonitions, and you're going to be leaving soon, and I will be here to help you out of here.
Right.
So it's just immediate. Like there's an immediate thing right there that is sucking in the person on Earth to take them with them, without question. So you see
I
how
see
there's
what
like
you-
that
yeah.
bridge there, bro? Like
Yes,
that's
yes.
suspicious. And I don't think that in every single case, or maybe in many cases, I don't know, like that they are who they claim to be. They all can't be
Right.
showing up and not some of them already reincarnating or some, I don't know. Like I just like there's again too many unknowns. So that's the whole sovereignty argument.
I did not see family members. I did not see Jesus. I did not have a life review.
Yeah.
So that makes my experience, a little bit different. But I would say that I think we have to really kind of understand one important thing is that not a single person truly knows. I don't care how many could be out of body 1,000 times.
Yep.
None of us will know, no matter how smart you think you are, until we're actually dead.
Exactly.
What the real truth is.
Yep.
Like, that's the thing. I think that's an important thing to realize.
Huge.
It's like,
huge.
Mm-hmm.
And there's
But
a big problem like with like the whole like just the whole spiritual everything about spirituality and religions, like just like the whole like like anyone who's being honest out there will say they don't know. They can allude to things, they can point you to things, they can kind of even show evidence and data patterns and things like that with all sorts of stuff. But is it necessarily like the 100% answer every time? No. I mean, it's just that this whole place is designed on purpose for us to be spinning our wheels and drive ourselves insane trying to find answers. That's my opinion.
Well, there's definitely something extraordinarily deceptive here. And I will agree with you on that. And this is going to sound weird, but I've actually been leaning towards the direction of there being a real devil of some kind. I know that sounds silly, and it's not the devil from the Bible. I'm not talking about the devil horns or that kind of, association. I'm talking about, like you talk about, like a demiurge maybe, or something.
Some sort of parasitic entity, yeah.
Yeah, something. Yeah, definitely something here that is deceiving. Like I don't like this place. You think I'm okay with children being bombed, and there's no limits to horror here? Like it just completely blows my mind how any soul would want to be tortured. I don't care how much you want to evolve. Like, that's just disgusting to me. I agree. There's something wrong. I don't know what it is though.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm convinced. I mean, we're in the same ballpark. We really are. I mean, however anyone wants to term it, it's some sort of parasitic, degenerate, disgusting force that is imposing itself, and in my opinion, is behind the entire damn thing. Just the human body. The human body, the human psychology, mentality, all that stuff. If it was all about love, then it would fix its goddamn creation. That's just my opinion. Like, it would fix this failure of a creation that it put forth and has mass produced and causes so much horror in the world. So that's where I have a problem with the whole love and light thing.
But there's the other contradiction.
Sure.
How is it going to fix something that was around forever?
Oh, well,
it's just going to repeat in endless loops.
That's true. That's true. And I talk about all the time, like, how it is running exactly as it's intended to run. Like, this is, in my opinion, this is exactly the way it is supposed to be, because it's designed that way.
Well,
loop or otherwise.
But you say it's designed that way, but if creation was around forever, who designed it though?
I don't know. I don't.
Okay, here's the thing. What if this God or this infinite light source, what if it's just as confused as we are? Food for thought.
I mean, it's sure. I put everything on the table. I really do. I put everything on the table, but I think I don't know. I put everything on the table. I do. Like, I'm not gonna say anything. Well,
I personally think that this infinite light it's like, when I was in my experience, like, yes, it was made up of billions of souls, but it was also its own consciousness, like its own entity, like it had its own personality too.
Sure.
So I kind of knew it was around forever, and I kind of got the sense like it is struggling to discover why it exists, and it's willing to compromise and do anything for all eternity to figure out one inkling of a reason as to why this eternal light exists. And it's using us as vessels to do that for it, if that makes sense.
It's a very intricate system, Daniel.
Yeah.
It's very, very, very intricate. So that's like, so I have a really hard time wrapping my head around just how well thought out and methodical this whole thing is. Like, that's where, like, I just, the disconnect is, it's very hard for me to overlook certain things, but again, I leave it all on the table. I mean, I'm kind of the suspicion that there are multiple, and kind of talking about what you were referring to in your experience, like how, or in your dream, I'm sorry, I think it was your dream. You were talking about how you kind of have a recollection of a possible past life or past lives in some other world that was a little more vibrant, but resemblance of a human body or what have you. And I think there are other material realms within this overall matrix system. I'm fairly convinced of it. Can't prove it. I know there's a bunch of astral realms that I know for certain.
Right.
But material realms, I think there's quite a few, and I think they could be like experiments. They could all be like test experiments to kind of figure out what the best plan of action is moving forward in future or ongoing simulations. I don't know. That's just kind of my thought. I don't know.
Interesting. Very interesting indeed. Yeah.
Anyways, we really we went off. I'm trying to think where we were last with your experience. So we were. I'm sorry, everybody. We just kind of derailed.
No,
off
that was great. I'm so glad you did that. That was great. Yeah.
Thanks, Daniel. Yeah, it's really. I just love talking and kind of like picking brains and going back and forth with anybody. It's awesome. And really appreciate you coming on, Daniel.
Yeah.
So, so you're in the realm and you start seeing the wheel. Let's kind of rewind. So you're a blue orb. You see a being that you're familiar with. And then you're kind of right after that, you go into the Wheel of Time. You see Rome and you see different time periods. Let's kind of go from there.
Okay. So I just observed this Wheel of Time and was not really given an explanation as to why I was being shown this. But I had this sense that it was because I was going to see the future later on, which did end up becoming true. Well, not that these futures have come true yet. Maybe they won't even come true, but later on, after the experience, I started having OBEs and dreams of things that I remembered from that wheel that I was shown about future events, and more specifically, the World War III, which more than anything else, the most important thing I believe I was shown. And but I was just shown that, and it kind of dissipated and disappeared. And I look up to the light, and a booming voice said, "Can't be here, can't stay." And I was just heartbroken at that point. I felt like a pit in my stomach. Even though I didn't have a stomach, it felt like I had one at that point. And actually, my astral body actually came back at that point, where I was no longer a blue orb. And I'm like, it's just saying, you gotta go, and said some stuff. And I just flowed back and slammed back into my body. I see everything in reverse. Like I see all the Earth and galaxy all in reverse. And I slammed back into my body, and I wake up, couldn't breathe for a few minutes. Had to look in the mirror, and I was pale, pasty skin, looked like a zombie. It felt terrible for a long time afterwards, and I was gasping for breath for a good 5-10 minutes after.
Now, I know in some of your older your interviews a while back, like the one I was looking at today, actually, and probably looked at about maybe I saw your interview with Jeff Mara and I think one other person too. And with Trish, I think you talked about how that there was a period, like you have crystal clear memory about a lot of what happened, and then up until a certain point, and then you're back here. And so if any of those kind of memories been recovered, because maybe I'm just misremembering but
no, you're right. No, that's what I meant with the Wheel of Time. Yeah, that's what I meant with the Wheel of Time. I remembered what I perceived to be the past very clearly, but the future seemed to be cut off from my memory. And it came back years later. That's what I meant. Yeah.
Oh, the future. Okay, the future. Okay. Because for some reason I thought I remember you were maybe talking with someone or there was just and then so and you were told you have to go back. Okay. And it's interesting too, kind of going in reverse, right? That's interesting. Like you could almost feel the time component in that. And so was it fluid from where you were in the wheel of time or by the wheel, and then how things kind of reversed, and then you go back into your body? Like, was it a fluid kind of experience, or was there anything in between that?
No, just a conversation with the light. And then, it felt like a funnel, or, I mean, I didn't see like a physical tunnel, but it felt like some kind of, like a reverse vacuum cleaner, I guess, like the whole pit, not in the stomach roller coaster effect. I was just floating down very quickly and slamming back into my body.
Did it hurt when you came back into your body?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was excruciating, unbearable pain, actually.
Was it loud? Like,
it was loud. It was, it felt like a sledgehammer, like hit me in the ears and the chest. Like, super loud, super painful, super uncomfortable. Right.
I've always been curious, because I don't think I've ever really heard an NDE or talk about it. How long does that last for?
How long does what last
for? I guess the loud noise in the ears, or the ringing, or the pain in the body.
Couple of seconds, maybe, just from that. It was very fast.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
And then the gasping for breath was very long, though. Yeah.
Trying to get your body back in like a rhythm, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you return, what kind of goes on from that point?
Not a whole lot. Like, I told my mom and brother and a priest that was there about what happened, and they were surprisingly open to it and okay. And over time, I had no issues with the blood pressure or heart palpitations or anything. It completely went away, and I just sunk into a deep depression because I didn't want to be here, though. And I was in a really dark state of mind for quite a long time, and pissed off that I was here, and still confused as to what I'm supposed to do in this place and what my purpose here is. And to this day, still confused about that, to be honest.
Yeah.
Even though I do have a wife and child, and, I do have all that stuff, it's, yeah.
Well, it's good. I mean, I think, you got your family. That's good. It's a good kind of equalizer. And I think, is your wife kind of awakening with you? I know she might not have had an NDE or anything, but like, is she kind of awakened with you on your journey, like with other things, or?
She's been a little bit more open-minded, but she's very, very invested in Christianity.
Okay.
Very much, yeah. But she has become slowly a little bit more open to other ideas, yes.
Maybe just to take a little more time, you kind of bouncing ideas off one another. That's cool. And that's, it's, like one of the big things is reintegration into society. I mean, I see that constantly in my research with this, like, and I feel bad for NDEers, like, especially those who feel like they got kicked out of heaven by God, or kicked out of heaven by Jesus, or whoever. I don't know. I mean, like, I think it's cruel.
It almost gave me PTSD being here. Yeah. Like a lot of crazy traumatic stuff happened after that. There's really bad stuff that happened, and, like, stuff I wish I didn't experience. So, but I did, but I guess, I'm stronger for it, I guess.
I'm sorry, Daniel. I am, man. It's not.
No, it's all good.
It's a.
That's life, though. That's just life. Yeah.
Yeah. It's the reality of this matrix. It really is. It's horrible. So, just out of curiosity, were you and your wife together before your experience, or did you meet after?
No. That was What's funny is that the girlfriend I broke up with, I ended up marrying her sister. So this is her sister.
Oh.
Yeah. That's
wow.
weird. I know. Yeah.
Hey, That's cool.
Got to do what you got to do, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. So that was after NDE. How long after your NDE did you meet your wife?
Not too long after. Well, hold on. No, I already knew them because I knew the sisters before the NDE, but no, I knew them for a while since I was like 18. But we got together when I was 22. Yeah, I would say 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
A long time. A long, long time ago now.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
All right. And you, I don't want to, I think it's, you know, maybe what we'll do is, how are you doing on energy? You okay with, usually I'll take, we're about an hour and a half in. I'd like to take a 5-minute break, but depending on how you feel, we could do a part 2 some other time. Like, I don't want to hold you either. So.
Yeah. I think part 2 some other time would be a good idea. I mean, if you want to go like 10 more minutes right now, I'm okay
yeah, that's
with
cool.
that.
Yeah, we'll do that. Okay, great.
Yeah, and then I'll be more than happy to do a part 2. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have covered a lot of ground.
We did, yeah. That was a lot for sure.
Really did. I mean, we haven't gotten into the Mandela Effect. I know that's kind of been a big one. But even like maybe like that might be kind of something to talk about, and like the synthetic Earth matrix, that might be kind of something for part 2 as well. Like with 10 minutes left,
right?
That's a lot to get into in 10 minutes. So, like, what was your recovery like when you came back? I mean, like. You know, I kind of hear like on average it's between like 2 and sometimes upwards of 5 years. I mean, it doesn't really ever really go away, but how do you how do you go about your daily life having had that experience? Did you take up any new hobbies, any new spiritual kind of approaches during that period when you were kind of back here when you didn't want to be?
Not particularly. I mean, I've always been a musician, so that was a big thing, but I just kind of went to college, did what my parents insisted I do, and just squeezed through the classes I despised and drank and partied a ton, and to try to kind of numb that.
Sure.
Mostly to try to numb that pain, actually. So that was a big thing too. Yeah.
And that's makes sense to me.
But yeah, you're right. Like 3 to 5 years was pretty accurate as where I could finally feel I was functional again in a real way. That's pretty accurate. Yeah.
And when you're so like in between that period of the first 3 to 5 years, what was going on with you spiritually, religiously, anything kind of going on then?
Well, you said it yourself. I was angry. I was angry at God. I was like, dude, what the hell? Why? And then, you know, over time, one thing that gave me some peace is that I was able to share this experience, like probably like over 2 million people now combined. Yeah. And that I'm like, okay, so I guess that kind of makes me feel like it had a purpose. Because before I didn't share with anybody until like, well, except family and stuff, until like 2017 or something was my first podcast. But yeah, that sharing it really gave me a lot of peace because it felt like, okay, I'm on a mission to share it now. And not just that, but my other experiences too, which I've had many.
Yeah, that's, so do you feel until kind of sharing your story publicly and yeah, I mean, like your story is really made the rounds online. Like, I mean, big, I mean, 500,000, 250,000. I mean, I've seen some big views, like even just clips or segments of your experience that clip channels have done. Like, yeah, I mean, like your story's gotten out there for sure.
Yeah.
And how, like, what, like, before you decided to share it online, were you going through like Dr. Moody's books or Jim Tucker
Right. So before that,
or anything like
that was that time period when I was into channeling.
Okay.
So that was my, so meditation. There was even a time where I would meditate 2 hours a day, and I would just sit and meditate and try to channel. Yeah. So I was reading all kinds of books. I really liked Howard Storm.
Sure.
Who had a hellish experience. And we could get into that in part 2, because I had a hellish experience as well. I don't know if you knew that.
Yeah, with your OBE, right?
With the OB, right? Yeah. So, and then I was into, I read a lot of books, did a lot of research. Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. And so, what, just like, I mean, I've really enjoyed your progression, Daniel. Over time, like since I ran across your channel, and we kind of gone back and forth a little bit here and there over the years. Like, it's interesting to see your progression. Like, what are your kind of thoughts on what I talk about now? Like, it almost seems like you're teetering on the idea a little bit, like, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. So I'm just kind of curious, like, just kind of like the last question. I'm just curious where you're at in 2024.
I mean, I totally respect what you do. And I, at first, when I first came across you, I'll be honest, I was a little bit upset, because the main viewed video on my channel is the reincarnation soul matrix being a lie, basically. So like, and I personally still don't believe we're trapped. Like, personally, I don't think we are, but
neither do I.
I respect you because you question something that most people don't even dare to. They're like, oh, wow, he had a lovely experience and they brought back so much joy. But like, you're digging underneath the surface of all of that. So that's amazing. And I do not want you to stop. Please keep going, because you're a unique individual in that. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Yeah. And like the way, like, I don't even see, the reason I even say like soul trap is like, because that's the search term. Like, that's what people are looking for. So like, I think we're just deceived or, like, into this, like, and we fall into material life. We fall into attachments. We fall into this cycle. So like, I kind of like was cornered into using that term because of that's what people would search for. Like, that was, and there really wasn't even much besides like Wayne and Dan talking about it. Like, that was it. Like, those were the only two before I started talking about it. And that was the term. And so, it's like, but yeah, I just think we kind of deceive ourselves while we're here and in between. And we have these soul groups. We have, who knows, Daniel, you and I may have known each other in past lives.
I'm sure we did.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's very probable that, we're interacting. Not only that, like, I'm telling you, man, like, I've been looking at your stuff off and on for 5+ years now, or whatever it is. Like, and it's just, it took this long for us to talk, which is kind of weird in and of itself, but here we are. And it's awesome that we had this chance. Like, I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. I appreciate it too. And let's stay in touch, and let's see when we'll be able to do part 2 if you want. Yeah,
I'd love to, man. And thanks so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you, everybody out there. Daniel, I appreciate you. I'm just going to kind of wrap things up here. And, and if you want to take off, you're more than welcome. Otherwise, I'll talk to you in about 2-3 minutes. Just got to close things out here. But check out Daniel. And thank you, Daniel. Appreciate you coming on. It's been a real pleasure.
You too. All right. Thank you,
brother.
Bye-bye.
Take care, man.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. So that is Daniel. You can find his channel inside. Oh, what's going on here? If you could find Daniel in the description tab. It's been a real pleasure having him on, and go check him out. And I really look forward to part 2. We didn't even get into Mandela Effect. We didn't get into... He kind of like was talking about some dreams that he had. Also about synthetic earth, how things kind of seem to change, like in his view in nature and stuff. Like really talking about the moon. Interesting things that kind of even I fell into and noticed. And like things you don't really even talk about much, but Daniel's, he hangs low. He really does, and he puts it all out there. All right, so check it out. Check out his channel in the description, and we'll definitely do a part 2 because I'd really like to see what else he has to say about all that, or at least have him kind of share some of the stuff he's already talked about. And yeah, so thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. Feel free to check out the channel on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter for notifications about upcoming streams. If you're interested, also have memberships available on Odysee and YouTube. Would greatly appreciate your support, but it's not expected. At the last Sunday of every month, I do a monthly members live stream. We get some extra content, usually quite a bit. And then there's also early access videos that come with it, and a members Discord server too. Members research Discord server. And we'll probably be having a group member voice chat sometime within the next 2 to 5 weeks, somewhere around there. So feel free to swing by and check that out. And you can also find the channel on Odysee, Rumble, and YouTube. Thank you, Rumble. Thank you, Odysee. Thank you, YouTube. Appreciate you all. Please also hit the like button on the way out and consider sharing this video. It's the only way this channel is really ever found, because the algorithm isn't doing me any favors anymore in getting this information out. So it's viewers like you that kind of help. So I really appreciate it. And I look forward to doing part 2 with Daniel. And there's more to come. Can also work on having Shannon come on as well. And that ought to be interesting. So, Shannon, if you're listening, I'll be in touch soon, brother. Thank you. Take care, everybody.